Welcome to our third AMADEE-15 Hangout, powered by Haider, the hearing company. My name is Olivia Haider, and I will be the host for the next 30 to 40 minutes. AMADEE-15 is the name of our Mars analog simulation, which will take place from the 1st until 15th August this year. It's less than 4 weeks. I'm a little bit excited and nervous already. It will be at the Kaunertal Glacier above 2,700 sea level. During the last two Hangouts, we learned a lot about our analog astronauts and the training. We also talked about the science for our upcoming Mars simulation. This time, we want to focus on the role of the Mission Support Center. This room, for example, will be the flight control room for the AMADEE-15 mission. I've invited some guests tonight, but before I'll introduce them, I would like to invite the audience to send us your questions. Use the Q&A box here in this Hangout, or tweet us a question with the AMADEE hashtag. So tonight we have here Alexander Suchek. He is currently in the Netherlands. Next to me is sitting Laura Zanardini. We have Clemens Blank and Nina Sejkora. So I would hand over to Alexander Suchek. Could you introduce yourself and what's your role during AMADEE-15?
Thank you very much, Olivia, and welcome to everybody, whoever might be watching. My role in this mission that will come up very soon is similar than to the lady and the gentleman in white in the flight control room. We are the flight directors of that mission. And that means we are a bit responsible for the whole crowd that assembles in the Mission Support Center, and that will help to support, to steer, to manage this Mars simulation. In real life, I'm working for the European Space Agency. I'm from Austria, and it's not my first time in the role of the flight director. I've done that several times, and it's every time, believe me, really, really exciting.
Okay, so welcome also from my side. Alex has already said pretty much everything. I'm part of the white shirt team, so I will be as well one of the flight directors. About myself, I'm from Italy. I was born in Milan and I'm a space engineer. I currently work in the Columbus Control Center in Oberpfaffenhofen in Germany, and I'm a flight controller. And now I give the microphone to them.
Yeah, hello everybody, also from my side. I'm still flight director for the upcoming AMADEE-15 mission. Yeah, I'm originally from Austria, Upper Austria to be exact, and studied aerospace engineering in Munich, and now I joined the OeWF not quite a year ago. So it's also, like Laura, the first mission here to simulate Mars. And yeah, are really excited to start it in 20 days. How much did you say before? Yeah. Yeah. So, well, that's pretty much from my side, and yeah, Nina.
Okay. Hello. My name is Nina Sejkora, and I'm the only non-white shirt guest here. I am the team lead of the flight planning team. So we will be doing the activity planning for this mission. So we tell the analog astronauts what to do, so to say. And I am also from Austria, and I'm studying physics.
Thank you all for the introduction. By the way, I have also a role during AMADEE-15. I will be a MediaCom, so any media-related questions are also welcome, not only to the flight directors or flight plan. So my first question goes to Alexander. You've already said you are one of the most experienced flight director within the OeWF. Do you remember your first mission?
Well, actually, my very first Mars simulation happened for me on Mars. That was back in 2006 at the Mars Desert Research Station in Utah in the United States that many of you might know. And we were lucky enough at that time with the Austrian Space Forum to have our very, very first Mars simulation at the MDRS, and we also had a mission control center back in Austria. That was also the first time that we had to organize and assemble a mission control. But at that time, as I said, I didn't know the mission control from inside. I was on Mars as part of the flight crew of the Austro-Mars mission. And that was, of course, exciting. That was very demanding, but also beautiful. I mean, after a while, you really feel like you are on Mars in these simulations. After 2-3 days, your brain somehow switches and you really get this isolation feeling. And then it took another 4 years for me to be on the other side during a simulation, and that was back in 2010. Coincidentally, we had a mission similar to the one we will have now, just in a smaller scale and more simple. Today we are much more advanced. In 2010 in Tyrol, that was my first time at the consoles in the Mission Control Center. And from then it moved on. 2011 we were in Spain, Rio Tinto. 2013 we were in Morocco. Now we are back in Austria, and who knows where the future will bring us.
Yeah, you already said that your first mission was not as a flight director, but as analog astronaut. So you are one of the few people who experienced both sides, the field side as analog astronaut, but also the mission support side as flight director. What did you enjoy most as analog astronaut and what as flight director?
That's a good one. It's two very different things, but I'm very, very glad and happy that I had the opportunity to experience both sides, and actually also a third side. For once, I also tried to do, together with a little team, an experiment. Because I believe if you want to be a flight director, a good flight director, it's important to understand what the people on each side, behind the consoles, on Mars, on Earth, what they feel and what they go through. So of course, naturally, you have some tensions always. Now, coming back to your question, what was the thing I enjoyed most? As an analog astronaut, it's certainly this feeling that you can have only in that moment that you basically are on another planet. It sounds funny because, of course, rationally, you know you're on Earth, but emotionally, you do switch and you live as if you were in isolation. So this I enjoyed most, and spectacular was the moment of coming back after 2 weeks on Mars and opening the hatch of the station for the first time without a spacesuit, breathing normal air, eating a fresh apple, having a beer, and walking in sports shoes on the desert sand. This was totally weird after 2 weeks, where you had a protocol when you wanted to go out in a spacesuit and so on. And then you appreciate actually how simple life is on this planet, how full of life even a desert is. So these were very emotional moments. And as a flight director, what I enjoy most is to work with a big crowd of people, because yes, as a flight director, you have the responsibility perhaps, but you're not running the mission. In reality, it's the people in the mission control or mission support center that run the mission. I always say the flight director doesn't have to know anything. He or she just has to ask the right people and then make the right decisions. And so I enjoy to work with a crowd of 20, 30, 40 people and motivate them also, because some of them might want to be on Mars, but we are on Earth and have yet an equally important role, because each Mars mission, as I always say, happens on 2 planets, on Mars, but also on Earth.
Wow, thank you. Very good answers. I have one question for you, Alexander, because I'm not sure if our audience knows what a mission support center is. Most of the audience will probably know what a mission control center is. The one in Houston is very well known. Some of the audience will also know the ESA mission control center in Darmstadt. But what is the difference between a mission support center and a mission control center? Is there any difference?
Well, the first difference, Olivia, is of course a word, and that makes already all the difference, because usually we are used to have a control center, in the sense of that the people sitting in the center have direct control on what is happening during a space mission. We should not forget that any space mission, any human space mission we have today is only in low Earth orbit. That is 400 kilometers above our heads. The communication to the astronauts, and Laura knows that much better than I, because she is in a professional life involved in that, is done in an instant. It's basically real-time communication. If there is an emergency, within a few hours, the astronauts are back on Earth. So that's an environment where you can really control what is going on up there. But when we are on Mars, many, many million kilometers away, where the signals traveling forth and back need minutes, 10 minutes each way, then you cannot actively in real time control what the astronauts are doing. Also, when you stay there for months on Mars, you cannot control every step. So by technological reasons and by psychological reasons and by logistic reasons, you have to give the people on Mars much more autonomy. And you don't control anymore from Earth, but instead you support them. You prepare their days, you support their decision making, you listen to them, you try to get organized for your part and helping them, but you're not steering left foot, right foot, stop doing this, start doing that. That is why we don't call our mission center anymore a control center, but we call it a support center, like it would be for a real Mars mission.
Okay, I think I got it. Because Mars is so far away, we cannot control every step of an analog astronaut or of the field crew, and we must give them more autonomy. So we support them back on Earth to the things what they do on Mars. So
and Olivia,
I got that right.
Absolutely. And it's not only that we cannot control it, we also don't want to control it anymore. Because if one day we want really to go out there and explore, we have to stop thinking of being controlled every moment. We have to be autonomous. We have to learn to make decisions in an unknown environment. That's basically what happened centuries ago with the explorers on ships. They were not controlled from back home. They got not their heartbeat measured. They did not have a GPS. They did not have maps. They sailed really into the unknown, and they were alone. In that sense, a mission support center like we have today is already a luxury for Mars travelers.
Okay, thank you. I want to now hand over to Clemens and to Laura. If you look back, the consoles are all empty. But maybe you can explain a little bit to our audience who will be sitting at the consoles during the missions and what their tasks will be. Laura, you want to start?
Sure. So in the past few months, we have spent quite a bit of time trying to define roles and what each position has to do. And we have found a very good settlement, and we have now all the consoles you see in the back, covering each one different role and a very defined one. And so you have already listened some words about the flight director. And the flight director, of course, needs some support when he's really handling several topics at the same time. And for this, we have an assistant, a flight director assistant, which is covering the same role as the flight director and is just trying to take some of the workload off of the official flight director as much as possible. One of the key functions of our mission is the EarthCom. The EarthCom is the communicator. So it's basically the only person that is allowed to talk to the crew on the field.
Hereby, sorry to interrupt you, it's not actually talking, we are just typing to Mars, because with the 10 minutes time delay, you can imagine that talking to each other just doesn't work. So we have a text chat where we write to each other.
And that's totally correct. Our talking is through keyboard, and but it's still a very important role because it has to be understood that the field needs to have only one person responsible to provide them information and support. So we are not all allowed to convey our messages, but there is only one person that is tasked to do this, and it's important that only one message and one opinion and one clear action is communicated. And this is also what happens in the real mission control centers, where always only one voice is talking. So there is one communicator per control center, and in this case we have our own EarthCom. Then we have a BME, a biomedical engineer, who is in charge of monitoring the personal data of the astronauts, the let's say more medical related data, and it's a very important function for making sure that the astronauts are not overstressed, overworking, and they're always feeling at their best for performing the task that the flight planning team is allocating to them. And then I don't want to take all the fun, so I let Clemens explain you the other positions.
Okay, thank you, Lara. So you explained the first 3 roles, and there are 7 more to come. I think I go through them a little quicker now. So let's start with records. This role is basically keeping track of everything what happened indeed on Mars. Not what was planned, but what is really happening on Mars, which experiments were started at what time, and keeping a log file of that, which is very important as well for together with the data we receive from the experiments to re-evaluate the experiments afterwards here, and maybe even if you have more questions after the actual mission, you can still make use out of this data then together with some other data, which I'm going to explain in the next few minutes. So the next console we have, what do we think? Let's go ahead with the Science Data Officer, which I was just mentioning. He is responsible for receiving the data from Mars, from our analog Mars site, and distributing the data to all the different experimenters, storing the data, and distributing the data also to the media team if requested, and keeping track and this being responsible for all the data we receive. So the very basic elements of this mission, actually. Then we have a console called Contact. This role is basically in contact with all the other teams. The role is calling the PIs, the principal investigators, if there are some issues on the experiment, if we have some questions on the experiments, if the experiment doesn't go, if they are not available, Contact will call the RSS team, or just walking over into the other room, calling Nina if we have some questions about the flight plan. So Contact is basically the door to the outside world from the flight control room. Then we have procedures. And procedures is basically about the experiment procedures. So if we want to know how far into the progress of the experiment we are, or it starts when donning a suit, actually at the very beginning of the simulation, so that we always know, although we actually are 10 minutes behind the real-time communication from Mars, that we know what actually is going on right now on Mars if everything is according to the procedures and to plan. So this helps us to keep up track with the real time on Mars in order to provide the information 10 minutes ahead of the time to the astronauts when they actually need it finally. Yeah, and then we have, I'm sure I forgot the position now. We got the EarthCom, we got flights. Yeah, I think we got every position now. Yeah. So, thank you.
Thank you, Clemens. And now I want to hand over to Nina. Nina, you are the team lead of the flight planning team. Could you explain what the role of your team is during a Mars simulation?
Yes, so if you have a Mars simulation, you will most probably have a limited duration of that mission and also limited resources. Of course, money-wise, and also if you are on Mars, you do not have infinite amount of food, whatever. And so, as you have a limited resources, you need to use your time and your resources efficiently. And this is, of course, not done by just getting up in the morning and taking the next experiment that's standing on the shelf, but to plan beforehand what experiment should be done on that particular day. And that is what Flightplanning is doing.
Okay, so that means you get all the information, how many experiments will be done, how many resources we have, and what comes out of it. Could you explain it to the audience who never have seen a flight plan? How does it look like?
Yes, so in our case, a flight plan is actually a big Excel sheet where you have all the time steps and all the people, and then with colored bars you mark and what time what person should do which activity. And this is called the activity plan, where we say, yes, this activity at this time. But we do not only tell the people in the field when to do an activity, but also where to do it. So we also give them a map where we say, this experiment should best be conducted here because there are the kinds of rocks the PI wants to be analyzed or whatever. And we say, yes, here you should do the experiment, and that's the best way to get there fast and especially, most importantly, safely.
May I just add something very quickly? Nina just made an understatement when she said the flight plan is a big Excel sheet. It's not a big Excel sheet, it's a huge Excel sheet. And it's really very, very colorful. When I, for the first time, saw such a flight plan years ago, I thought, wow, that's a piece of art, actually. And I thought I will never be able to read that because it's really complex. But I must admit, the art lies in the way how the flight plan team around Nina is drafting these sheets, and you can actually read them and they make sense, and it's an enormous work that is really, really well done and helps us in the flight control room a great deal.
Yeah, I can also imagine that you need to start long before a real simulation happens. We are now less than 4 weeks apart from the next simulation. When did you start planning the flight plan or mission plan, how we call it, for AMADEE-15?
Yes, so we do for a mission, we do 3 iterations of the mission plan. And the first iteration we started the end of December last year, so more than half a year ago. And then in spring we had the second iteration of the mission plan, and now we just finished the third and last iteration. It's just being reviewed by all the rest of the team and the experiment PIs if they are happy with the slots they are assigned or if they have any problems time-wise. And yes, then it will be finished in the next days and go into the last mission manifest. And this is then the basis on which we do our activity planning during the mission.
Okay, now maybe a silly question from my side. So you have planned now everything. Everything is planned. The field crew know what to do on what day. I already know when I get my hangouts. So do you have anything to do during a mission?
Yes, so the mission plan is, for example, planned in 1 hour increments. And of course, you can imagine not every activity takes 1 hour. So during the mission, we do then the activity plan that is in 15-minute increments, so that we do much more detailed version of this plan. And of course, also things change, an experiment is broken, an astronaut is sick or whatever, and then we need to adjust this beautiful plan we have done before the mission. And also, I said before that we also prepare the traverse plans, so the maps where the experiment should be conducted. And those plans we do during the mission.
Okay, I want to come back to the flight directors, and now that Laura and Clemens, it's your first mission. You have never been a flight director before. I suppose it's also your first analog mission. Yeah. How do you train for your job, or how is a flight director trained?
Well, yeah, that's indeed a good question. I guess we can say that we benefit a lot from Alex Suchek and also from Gernot and all the other previous flight directors and their experience. And also from Nina, I have to admit, of course. Basically from everybody at the OeWF who has some more experience. And basically everybody has more experience than we do have. So just open your ears and look around, ask silly questions, and that's the way how you learn. And certainly do your homework as well in regard of the experiments. Know what the experiments are all about, and yeah, plan and prepare as good as possible. Yeah, I don't know. Hard to say. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just maybe some few things. There are a lot of things that are prepared in advance from the experience of the previous OeWF missions. We have a lot of documents we can study on. Nina just mentioned the mission plan. We can start looking at that. We can start working on our standard operating procedures. So every action, everything that we do has been done before, has been documented. So for me, it was a great help to just go in the documentation and see what was done before. Add a little bit of my experience to understand a little bit how the communication work. Alex said they were starting in 2006, so you can imagine in 10 years the OeWF is really experienced in doing analog missions. So we really found a very prepared environment, and it was really easy for us to get into it and learn from everybody, from their personal experience from the past mission. And really everything went smooth for our personal training, let's say.
So far, absolutely.
And now we will see how we can apply this training into the mission.
But you also did an amazing job in the past month, the two of you, and I think that should also be said, because it's not easy to come into a team and to integrate, but also to lead at the same time. So Laura and Clemens have shown that they can do that, and also do it in a manner that is always, or most of the time, friendly and relaxed, although the stress is high. So compliments to you as well.
Well, Laura, I have a question for you. In your daytime job, you are a flight controller.
My night.
For ISS. Can you say, or is there a difference between being a flight controller for ISS and being trained for Mars analog mission? I know you didn't experience analog mission itself, but can you imagine a difference, or what could that be?
Okay, yeah, so the main difference for me, and also what really pushed me to have this experience, is the fact that an analog mission is something that is a little bit far from the real-time work where I work. So when I'm working on console in my shift, I'm always there to react in real time, to support, to answer, to really make my actions in a minute, in a second, if it's necessary. What we said before about the difference between a mission support center and a mission control center is that our job here is much more a supporting job. So we have this time delay. That is something that I have never experienced, and I'm really curious to see how it's applied to a real analog mission. And then we have the fact that we are supporting, we are not controlling. And my mindset is always in a way that I see my astronaut in the camera, I see that he has a problem, and I tell him what he has to do. And now this will be completely different and very, very interesting, because the astronaut, by the time I know the mistake would have been made 10 minutes ago. So how do we recover? How we discuss? It's a completely new world for me, and it's what is making this very challenging and very interesting.
Okay, thank you. Then I would ask the question to a more experienced one, maybe Alexander first. Can you describe how a day in a mission support center look like, and will you be able to sleep during the mission?
So to calm everybody down, not that my fellow flight directors run away before the mission starts. Yes, you're able to sleep during the mission. That is no problem. Although the days are long at the Mission Support Center. So usually we start around ±7 a.m. Our time. We start with a briefing. Okay, now they look already with big eyes. Okay. Between 7 and 8-ish, but you'll see the flight directors are usually there in the beginning, and it's natural. You're such in a simulation mood. You also get up easier. It's not a normal everyday life day. We start with a morning briefing. We get the team ready. We look at the things that need to be done for that specific day, having the procedures ready, the experiment procedures, etc. We then have a very first contact, sometimes also outside the simulation with the field, just to check certain things. Then we get our mission support center really started, the flight control started. We switch at a certain point that the procedures define into simulation mode. That means then the time delay starts. Then all the teams in their groups work individually, but we're also connected, and the fun really starts when things go wrong or not exactly to procedure, or questions come, or the weather turns our planning upside down. Believe me, there will be every day something. At the end of a long day, we have something what we call a pool party, which does not mean that we jump in a swimming pool, but the word comes from we pool all our people together. We make with the, let's say, the leads of all the teams a debriefing of the day. We prepare the next day. We write summaries, records, give interviews, etc. Have a little pizza and jump into bed late at night to get up a few hours later. That's in a nutshell a day.
Thanks, and the same question now goes to Nina.
Yes, well, so in general, the day is similar, only that after the morning briefing, the flight planning team goes into their respective room. So flight planning is not sitting in this room here, but we are in a room next door, and we then prepare the plan for in 2 days in advance in this case. And yes, then once the plan is finished, we check if anything has changed, and we need to redo a plan for the next day. And then in the evening at the pool party, we present this plan to the pool party, and where it is accepted, and then afterwards sent to the field. And yeah.
Okay, thanks. We have now a question from the audience. I will read it from Marlene Raab. How many Plan Bs and Plan Cs, Plan D, smiley, has Nina flight plan team? I could imagine that there are always unplannable events like thickness, defect robots, or other error within the experiments. How fast can the team react and reschedule the agenda?
Okay, thank you for the question. So first, how many Plan Ds? Well, our record during March 2013 was version 8 of one plan, but that's not the usual way. And as to how fast we react until a certain point in time. So as said before, we do it 2 days in advance planning. So today we would prepare the plan for the day after tomorrow. And yes, things might change, then we can redo this plan today, and we can also redo it tomorrow until a certain point. And then if, for example, something breaks in the evening, we say, yes, you can consult us. We will give you an advice what would be best to do, but we do not write a completely new plan. This was done in previous mission. It's called real-time planning, that flight plan really sits in the flight control room, and whenever there comes the message, we have a 10-minute delay, flight plan is doing a new plan. But this is very inefficient because you do not have time to think things through, and mistakes happen, and yes.
Okay, so let's hope we don't have to do many 8 versions like we're doing MAS 2013. But there's another thing. AMADEE mission will be the highest ever conducted MAS analog mission worldwide. We will be on a glacier, and it's an alpine environment. There will be glacier crevasses and so on. So I can imagine there are a lot of dangers for the analog astronauts. How do we plan for danger and emergency, and what role does the MSC has during an emergency? Maybe I can hand over the question to Alexander.
Well, that's of course a rather serious topic, because here we speak not of simulated dangers or emergencies, we speak of real dangers or emergencies. First of all, it's of course dangerous by itself to be already on a glacier for anybody, but then if you're on a glacier with a more than 40-kilogram spacesuit around you with electrical components, mechanical components, that makes the whole situation even more, let's say, I wouldn't call it dangerous in itself, but let's say prone to certain risks, and we have to deal with them. So first we train, number one. And number two, what everybody has in real space flight is procedures. And we call them the standard operating procedures. That is kind of lists, procedural lists according to which we work, that are trained, so the decisions go faster, we don't have to think too much. And some of these procedures concern real emergencies. So when real emergencies happen, then there are procedures in place how we would react. Of course, if the emergency happens in the field, we are not physically there. So we have certain tasks that we do on Earth, or in that case in real life in the city, that concerns certain records, that concerns eventually beginning an emergency chain also from here, getting whatever is needed on its way, having media communications accordingly. But let's say the actual procedures to save an astronaut have to be, of course, done on the field. So there the role of the MSC is somewhat limited, because we cannot interact physically on the field. But the SOPs, the standard operating procedures, tell all of us what to do, and they are very, very important, because when it comes to an emergency, then of course the stress level is high, but we cannot afford to be nervous or stressed. We have to act routinely, and that's why we have these procedures.
Okay, thank you very much. I will have now a final question for everybody. Is there anything you're especially looking forward during the AMADEE mission?
From my side, I really look forward to have the complete experience, to have all the team stuff and to see all the machine working, and it's really great to be part of it and to see all the roles filled and all the experiments being run, and I'm really looking forward to a successful mission from the scientific point of view and also from the personal point of view. So I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of motivated people working together in a very friendly and professional environment.
Yeah, I can basically copy paste that. It's the dress rehearsal the upcoming weekend, where we're going to meet for the first time almost all the people who finally will participate in August as well. And in August, certainly, then it's the real deal. So yeah, as Laura said, it's going to be a great new experience for us on a professional and as well as on a personal point of view, working together with so many different people from so many different nations, basically, in Innsbruck. It's really an honor, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so of course it's also what they said. It's always really great to have so many people around in this mission support center working professionally, and but always usually friendly, and it's really, you meet great people here. And also, yes, right now I'm beginning to feel that the mission is approaching, and all those plans we have done in theory half a year ago. I mean, what feeling do you have about a mission half a year before it? That it's slowly now, this is becoming reality, and I'm really looking forward to this.
Well, and I share what has been said, but to add something very different, I'm looking forward to the very first breathing sounds that come from the analog astronaut when he or she steps out in the field. You know, these, because they really sound like coming from an alien world, and that's the moment when you realize now you have started a mission, now you are on Mars, now you support these people, and now we all are part of a very special path that one day, hopefully in reality, will lead us to Mars.
Thank you very much. I have nothing to add. I just want to thank you all for watching the Hangout, powered by our partner AMADEE. Our next AMADEE-15 Hangout will be on the 7th of August. It will be during the mission, and it will be live from the Kaunertal Glacier. Don't miss it. Good night, Earth. Mission Support Center is signing off.
Yeah.